Yeah, they don't like it the way that I talk. Yeah, they don't like it the way that I walk. I walk the line. I gotta stay aligned to my highest thoughts. What up, y'all? We got rhythms and cycles today. Cycles and rhythms today. Doesn't feel like it's gonna be a very long one, but you know what? You know how this goes. So I guess I said that. So now we're gonna strap in here for 2 hours. Today's a real important one, okay? This is like we have created the underlying system, and now we have got it's the spiral of evolution, y'all. So we're kind of coming back around now and coming to a similar place in which we started. But now we're kind of at a higher level because we've gotten this system. This is lesson 12. We've been around the block a couple times now, and it is cool too because 12 weeks is kind of like that's like a full season in a sense. A lot of what I operate on, and as we'll get into here, has to do with these 12-week blocks. A lot of the training, like the programming that I do for training, and then as well as how I structure a lot of things that I do in my own personal and professional life, even though for me it's really just one and the same thing. It operates off of these 12-week blocks. So ultimately what we need to discuss here is how to align with nature. And it's beautiful how this all comes into play. As just a little bit of a backstory on this topic specifically is, I did all the work. I went through Tony Robbins' program, Time of Your Life, which again, I highly recommend if you want to get like an even deeper dive. And that's something that, I will continue to do because a lot of what I have learned has been me going on deep dives in various different areas and then taking what I've learned, taking what I have gained and implemented for myself, and then developing my own system around it. Because, fundamentally, again, not to say this shit is like better than whatever, even though, yes, I'm biased and I'm fully kind of behind and supporting of what I do, obviously, or wouldn't be here teaching this. But a lot of what I have learned, it always, even the very holistic things, there always felt like there was pieces missing. Like I never really came across a system that truly felt holistic to me. And I'm not gonna lie, like even this system, it still feels like there's work to be done, and that's the beauty of it. It's a never ending process, just like evolution. You're never done. And paradoxically, if you ever do get to that point of completion, if you ever get to that point of perfection, then you will no longer be there to experience it. Now, I won't dive deeper into that, but that's something that you can meditate on. So when it comes to these cycles, because like I said, I implemented Tony Robbins' work and I kind of went full on that, and I listened to that. I think it's like 12, 14 hours, maybe more of audio. And I went through that 3 times. And as I've probably mentioned before, when I study things and like what I have learned works best for me is I like to go through just a straight run through. I mean, I really thrive off of repetition. So when I study things, I'm not one to make a lot of notes. As for me, it feels like I wouldn't necessarily say wasting time, but it just doesn't feel as productive for me. I don't feel like I get as much out of it. Whereas other people, that's how they roll, But for me personally, I like to do like just straight run throughs of things and just consume. Whether it's a book, whether it's a course or whatever, just straight consume and just like get a big overview of everything. And then a lot of times, the first time, as you can imagine, it's all new information. And so it's just kind of all over the place. And then after that first time is when I'll have that idea of if this is something that is really worth pursuing and diving deeper into. And as a little bit of a side note, the more that I really just tap into myself and my soul and allow that to guide me, the more that I find that I come across the teachings that are needed for me in that particular moment of where I'm at. So a lot of times the things that I study a lot of different shit, and I, just like all of us, I don't like to waste my time. So I'm very particular about what I choose to engage with and what I choose to consume. But when I do, and when something I know is like there's something very important here, first time through, just overview, all new information, what have you. Second time through is when it's like things start to click, and it's like a lot of times, even the second time through, I still won't actually take any action. I'm I'm definitely one of those people that when the person's like, yo, stop what you're doing right now, like you need to do this, you need to take action, this is the first step, do your homework. This is literally, like I tell you motherfuckers, I'm that type of dude that won't do it. Because for me, again, like I do best when I really can grasp something intellectually before I really start to take action. Because again, just like this whole fucking course is all about doing the right shit. Because when you're someone that wants to do everything and you're passionate about literally fucking everything, you only got so much time, bro. And so you need to make sure that the things that you are doing are the most high leverage, the most important things to do. Okay? So I like to know that I really grasp something. So the second time through is like, okay, I've got a good grip on this now. And then the third time through is when I do everything. When I'm like, okay, let's stop, let's do that. Okay, let's stop, let's do that. Okay, let's stop, let's do that. And so that's what I did with Tony Robbins' work. Long story short. But when I got to the end, when I finished, and again, like maybe I haven't engaged with his teachings really much since then. Maybe he's completely like revamped the whole thing or built upon it. I don't really know. But either way, when I did do it, it still felt like after a while, because don't get me wrong, it did help me tremendously. Essentially doing Tony Robbins, his RPM model and the time of your life course showed me the way. It gave me the answer to the question that I was asking at the time, which was, how do I do everything? And that was the answer to that question. But I soon realized that even though I found a way to do everything, I was still just trying to do everything, and I was all over the place, just working and working nonstop, and I still didn't even feel like I was doing the most productive things that I could do. It's, the analogy that I use often is there was a lot of motion, but there wasn't a lot of movement. And so the Tony Robbins system helped me to basically helped me to move faster and faster and faster, but I still wasn't that clear on exactly what I was doing and being the most productive that I can possibly be with what I was doing. And so there was that gap there. And along with that there wasn't any kind of way, within the system. Yes, there was kind of, you schedule in times to review. Obviously, you still operated on the 90-day cycles and the 1-year cycles. But even within that, it's still easy to just keep going and going and going and going nonstop. And again, this isn't like to bash any of Tony Robbins shit or anything. And the more that I do this, the more that I teach and like how much content I put out, the more that I realize, like, if you really want to understand something and really, get into a deeper level of knowingness of what someone is trying to communicate, I mean, it really does take diving all the way into everything. So much of the time especially nowadays, like, damn near, I don't really get pissed off about shit, but it damn near pisses me off. Because, you'll listen to a tiny little soundbite of somebody saying something, and then you will develop a whole story about who you think that person is, what you think they're like, what you think their character is, like everything. You will develop a whole fucking story because, we like labels. We like some kind of semblance of certainty, especially when it comes to our relationships. So it's like we will build up this whole vision, this whole idea about who we think somebody is based off of the tiniest amount of information. And so again, I feel like if I were to sit down, and I feel like it's going to end up happening eventually one of these days, like I'm going to sit down with Tony Robbins and like really break this stuff down, I feel like we would really resonate on a lot of different levels. But from what I have studied of him, one of the big things that I've personally felt is not necessarily missing, but not in line with the natural ebbs and flows of life, is his work is really all about like, this is how you just fucking hit the gas nonstop. And like, you can just keep hitting the gas and you don't need to stop. And that's cool and all. But so when I did this was like last year, about, I think it was July. So damn near a year ago was when I first started this process. And by the time I got to wintertime, I was burnt the fuck out. And in our society in general, like the end of the year comes and then everybody's like, fuck, we got these end of the year goals. We gotta fucking push hard the rest of this year. We gotta finish strong, all this shit. Meanwhile, if you look outside, the leaves are falling down. The days are getting shorter. The weather is getting colder. Everything in nature is pointing to slow the fuck down, bro. Chill, bro. The work has been done. You planted the seeds in the spring. You watered and you nurtured and you built in the summer. You've reaped what you sowed. You took the shit to the marketplace. It's time to rest. It's time to celebrate. It is time to draw your energy in. And so you can see how there's a big mismatch here. And fundamentally, we are fucking nature. You are nature. Where the fuck did you come from, bro? Where the fuck did you come from? You are nature. And there's, you can even just go on the little thought experiment. Okay, where'd you come from? Oh, it came from my mom, bro. Okay, where'd your mom come from? Well, she came from her mom, bro. Where'd her mom come from? And you keep going and going and going. Like, where did that come from? We came from the fucking earth. This whole earth, everything that is a product of this earth came from this fucking earth. Where did the earth come from, bro? It's a product of the solar system. Where's the solar system come from? It's a product of the fucking galaxy. Where's the galaxy come from? It's a product of the fucking universe. You are the universe. Any which way you want to slice this shit, I don't give a fuck. You are the universe. Okay? I'm glad we ironed that out. You are nature. You are not separate from nature. As much as you like to play around with your ideas and think that you are and think you have all this kind of control over your life, when really you're just fucking running yourself to the ground, trying to go against everything that is just a natural flow of who you are being and becoming and who you've been the whole time. That's why we're so fucking sick. That's why we're so fucking fat. That's why we're so fucking sad. I hate to say it, it is that simple. And I say this from a place because I experienced it. Because I was just burning myself out trying to do everything because I figured out how to do everything. And then it came to wintertime. And then nature's like, bro, sit your fucking ass down. And the funny thing is, when you still think that, no, I gotta push, I gotta go, I gotta fucking stay hard, motherfucker. Nature's like, okay, go ahead, dude. It's unconditional love. It's like this. It's do what you want. Go ahead, bro. Go on. It's like little children. You watch them. They're gonna fucking fall. They're gonna hurt themselves. But at a certain point, outside of letting them completely destroy themselves, which is kind of where we're at right now, if you take a look around. And that's why, nature's kind of starting to step in here in various different ways. It's a whole other discussion, but you just look around, nature's starting to step in, because obviously you don't want to allow your child to put themselves in a position where they're just going to like really hurt themselves, or ultimately, potentially kill themselves because of just ignorance. And like fundamentally, we are just a bunch of children walking around, thinking that we're all big and bad and we're so fucking smart, and yet we can't even figure out how to be healthy and happy. How intelligent is that? And so ultimately what I'm getting to here is aligning yourself with what you already are, nature. Okay? And so much of this program, so much of this system has been a product of me just observing nature, and not even nature in the sense that I'm like going out in the middle of the forest and staring at trees, even though that is a very, very productive practice. That is a very useful practice, just being out in nature, but also realizing that because I am nature, everything that I have an idea that is outside of me is also within me. What is above, so is below. What is within, so is without. Okay? So just even witnessing yourself and noticing yourself, like noticing how does your body feel when it's wintertime? And again, like we all have different experiences, and this is, this gets deeper and deeper into, you can even get into like astrology, you can look at your, like the human design path. You can look at like Gene Keys path, which I'm very, very into the Gene Keys at the moment. I've found that very, very helpful for me. But there's so many different ways, and we're all different. Okay. But either way, just noticing, witnessing. I wrote this yesterday. Listen more than you speak. Witness more than you project. So just pay attention. Like if you want to be healthy, just fucking pay attention. The answer's not out there. The answer's not coming from some dude or some girl that went to school for 8 years and learned a bunch of horse shit that is, irrelevant by the time they're even done. And then they put on this little white jacket, and then you give them all this power and authority because you're not willing to take your own personal responsibility for your own health. And you choose to just outsource, again, children, you choose to outsource that authority to some other kind of figure, to some, dude in the sky. He's coming to save me. Don't worry. Daddy's going to take care of you, buddy. Don't you worry. You just keep eating your fucking Doritos. You keep just staring at your screen all day. You just keep complaining and victimizing yourself. Don't you worry. Daddy's coming to save you. That's what a child does. And again, it's cool. Do what you want. Like, I get it. I fucking get it. And, I say all these things, and I've really given myself permission to speak my truth and utilize the function of my ego to intentionally be confrontational, intentionally to be kind of in your face about this stuff, and to just say it like it is. Because I'll be honest, for so long in my life, I have, I can point this to my upbringing and my childhood and, how I was raised and like whatever, all that shit. Cool. But either way, so long in my life, I have avoided confrontation because I didn't want to just out of fear. Like, I didn't want to hurt people's feelings. I didn't want to, and even stress too. Like, imagine in so many people I feel can relate to this. When you're under a lot of stress, it's taking everything for you to just hold the status quo together. And look, I'm a fucking business owner, an entrepreneur, so I get it. Where it's like, you're like, fuck, how's that going to happen? Like, there's so much uncertainty, and that's just how it is, because nothing really is certain when you get to it. I mean, that's just the law of the fucking universe is impermanence. And yet we try so hard to create some semblance of security and certainty, but it's like it takes so much energy to uphold all this shit that any little tiny detail outside of everything that you're trying to do to maintain some kind of false sense of security and control is just like, I don't want it. No. Then you avoid and you suppress. And again, different people handle things different way. I'm the type, you talk about like attachment styles. For me, I'm avoidant, where it's like, I have learned if there's confrontation, I'm going to go over here. And because I learned to just manage shit by myself. But either way, I've given myself permission to express. And ultimately, like, I love this kind of form because I can just say what I want to say before, because again, everybody, as soon as you start talking, and I'm guilty of this too. Like, everything that I'm telling you, I'm not telling you because it's like I'm coming from this, holier than thou, higher place. It's because I've been in the same shit and I still experience the same shit. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to myself. Okay? And it's art. This is art. This is fucking art. You don't listen to music and people are talking about, I'm going to fucking kill you. I'm going to go fuck your bitch. I'm going to kill myself. And you're like, yeah, people can have feelings about it, but it's art. Like, you don't question it. It's art. It's up for interpretation. If you fuck with this shit and it resonates with you, cool. If not, cool. It's art. Take it for what it is. Interpret how you want it. Just like I was saying with Tony Robbins, it's like, you can take a little snapshot out of here and I could look like the fucking worst, most evil person in the world, that I don't give two shits about anybody. I'm arrogant. I don't give a fuck. It's art. Okay? Take it for what it is. So these rhythms now, these rhythms. And as you like, we're in summertime right now, bro. And I am fucking like, I'm on. And that's the beauty of this, when you witness how you respond to the different phases of life. Because obviously I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm just worried about right here and right now. But I'd imagine come the fall, come wintertime, I might damn well be a completely different person. I might be way more chill, way more low, way more just flowy, because that's where I'm at. But right now, it's summer. I feel the fucking fire, and I'm embracing it. But what has tended to happen in the past, and what I ran into last year and damn near every fucking year, is I would still try to keep the fire of the summer going into the fall, into the winter. We can talk about all the different elements and all that fun stuff. And deep, when you get deeper and deeper into the layers of this system, like kind of all of these things start to tie together. And just like I was saying, I didn't make this to be some like, here it is, it's perfect, and that's it. I created this to knowing that it's imperfect and knowing that it's going to go through continuous evolution. And that's okay. And that's built in. And that's the whole point of these rhythms and cycles. So you've got your summer, fall, winter, spring. You've got your day and your night. Like it's all around you. Okay. And if you really want to get healthy, if you really want to maximize your productivity, if you really want to maximize your energy, then see what happens. It's an open invitation here. See what happens if you align yourself to those rhythms and those cycles. Just like, if you just take a day, for instance. Again, it's summertime now when I'm recording this. And so the days are longer, the nights are shorter. The days are longer, and so there's just more of a time for action. There's more of a time for doing things because that's the day. That's the nature of the day. It's just activity, doing shit, building shit. And then the nighttime, it starts getting dark outside. Ideally, the more that I align myself to this shit, the more, and that, again, I say this over and over and over again. The beauty of this, it's like the more and more I align myself, to nature, to myself, the more, and it's kind of the whole point behind all of this. It's like the more that I don't have to try to do anything. Like when it's starting to get dark outside, it's not like I'm trying to start to get tired so I can go to bed. It's like I'm not trying to wind down so that I can get tired and fall asleep. Like, no, the sun's going down, bro. I'm getting fucking tired. I'm tapping out. Look, I make all these videos like in the morning time. You see me at 9 o'clock at night. I'm done. I'm tapped out. Like I got no more fucking words for you. I start I'll start mumbling. I won't I won't even fucking open my mouth. And Taylor knows this very well. Hey baby, if you're listening to this, But I'm tired. And then guess what? I go to sleep. What do you know? I go to fucking sleep. And then I wake up, I sleep, and I don't even set an alarm anymore, bro. I just wake up. Whenever I wake up, Usually it's like around 6:30. Okay. And we know I likely might get deeper and deeper into this, but there's a whole like your circadian rhythm and like the different hormones. And honestly, if you want to get deeper and deeper into that shit, go get How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy by Paul Chek. Like he breaks this down to such a magnificent and simple level. Because there's different windows when different things happen, even while you're sleeping, and you can optimize all of that shit. But at a basic level, it's dark outside, go to sleep. It's wintertime, there's shorter days, there's more rest. And I know it can be so hard, especially, for people that are very, what do they call it? Type A, just go-getters, like you love to do shit. And so you feel like this sense of, it's almost like guilt, where you're like, I should be doing things. Like I'm not being productive. I'm wasting time. I'm just sitting here. How dare I just fucking sit here and be unproductive? What the fuck am I, a piece of shit? But when you do have that, and you have that little pacifier, it's okay to have a little, just a little suck on that little nipple a little bit. It's okay. It's all right. I get it, bro. I get it. When you got that little pacifier, Which again, we're getting deep and we're building out this whole, it's a big ass pacifier. It's a big ass nipple you're sucking on there, buddy. But when you have that, you can trust. Just trust. Trust the flow. Trust the flow, flow, surrender. Trust the flow of surrender. Trust the flow of surrender. We build this shit so that we can have our pacifier, so that we can let go. Let it go. Flow. Let it go to flow. Trust. Surrender. Surrender to the flow of trust. Trust the flow of surrender. Flow to the trust of surrender. Surrender to the flow of trust. However way you want to go. Trust, flow, surrender. That's the type of shit that we're on here. Because nature doesn't have to try. Bird doesn't have to try to be a bird. Tree doesn't have to try to be a dog. What? Tree doesn't have to try to be a tree. Dog doesn't have to try to be a dog. Cricket doesn't have to try to be a cricket. Plant doesn't have to try to be a plant. Water doesn't have to try to be a water. Why the fuck are you trying so hard to be you? Just be. And, haha, that's the beauty. Okay? So, just to cap this off, thank you for allowing me this space, dear Lord, to just be me and to just flow. To cap this off, what we're going to get into, lesson 12. Again, these podcasts, these are my free flow, okay? If you want more grounded, tangible, to the point shit, there's a link. It's in every fucking lesson. There's a link. Go sign up for the free course. That's my invitation for you. But as far as lesson 12 goes, it really just is about aligning to the rhythms. Okay, we create this structure that is already aligned to the rhythms of nature so that you can flow with the rhythms of nature. And you can witness what is happening within each of the seasons. Because who knows, maybe in like, you will likely experience this when you're first starting, because so many of us, we're so out of balance, and it's just, we live in this fucking upside down world. Day is night, night is day, hot is cold, summer is winter, winter is summer. It's so fucking backwards, and it's okay. It's quite all right. So when you're first starting this, you might feel that way. It might feel like you're actually going against your nature at first, because you have to balance the system out. And this is where, again, having this structure, having this program that you can draw upon to be like, no, this is what we're doing right now. Sit the fuck down, it's wintertime. Or, oh, it's summertime. Stand the fuck up, let's go. Summertime. Or fall time. Yo, let's harvest. Come on. Let's celebrate. Let's bring it all together now. This is the peak. Okay? So it might feel a little bit forced at times, just like when you're first trying to, do a new diet. It's different. Don't mistake different for wrong or different for bad. This happens all the time when I'm teaching people how to lift weights, where it's like, you've never fucking done a snatch before. No shit, it's gonna feel weird. You've never done it. But you keep doing it, you trust in the process of it, and before you know it, it's a flow. And then once you find the flow, then you can just go, and then you can surrender to that. But it takes a little time to build this up, okay? Which is why, I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but when I'm coaching people directly on this, I always tell them, give this process at least a year, because that's just, kind of one full cycle. And I would even, and when I'm working with athletes, I even say 10 years. I say, can you commit to doing this for 10 years? Because that is really what it takes, okay? And that's just being realistic. That's what it takes. If you can't do 10 years, then, again, you can do it for however long you want. You can do whatever you want, okay? Sometimes you need to experience something for a short period of time that leads you to something else. I get it. But if this is really what you want, you need to have that time frame in mind. And even like doing this whole course, like, you know, building all this shit out, I'm thinking in terms of decades. Hell, I'm like, at this point in my life, I'm thinking in terms of lifetimes. Like, what can I set in place to where even if I do, you know, live fucking 150, 200 years or 500 years, whatever, how can I build something that can continue on? And not even that it has to continue on. Maybe this is what is needed for this time period in our history, and then that's it. Or maybe it's like the fucking Bible, where it's this timeless thing, as, you know, kind of great art does that, because it touches deeper layers than what is just at the surface level of whatever time period that it's in. So yeah, that's the fundamental message here. It really doesn't have to be more complicated than that. When I go through the course, when you go through the course, I'm gonna break down kind of how I ended up structuring, because again, you know, we have these ideas of, oh yeah, aligned to nature, oh yeah, the day and the night, your circadian rhythm, and all these ideas are cool. But again, you want your little pacifier, you need your little BB. I think that's what they call it. You need your little BB. And so I've created a whole like number system that I use for training, but you can also use it for other areas of your life. And just to give you, you know, just not leave you hanging here, what I ultimately did was I said, okay, you know what, like, let's look at, we need to start with like a big macro cycle, but not too big to where it's hard to manage, but big enough to where a lot can happen. And, you know, being an athlete, I looked in those terms, because again, like, this is just, we are trying to create some structure that is ultimately aligning to the flow. So this is where, you know, you got to start with something. There has to be some kind of idea that you are working with, some kind of concept that you are working with. And I do my best, and this is why, you know, part of the reason I study so many different things in so many different areas, because I want to understand underlying principles of things. And, you know, if you're an athlete watching this, don't just rely on one, you know, if you have one coach or one influence or one kind of role model that you idolize, because ultimately the people at the top level of what they do, regardless of what the field is, whether it's athletics or, you know, music or business or whatever, ultimately those people, and this is what you'll learn from just studying a wider range of people in all different fields, those people took the basic principles, which on the other side of that, the basic principles are essentially the same regardless of the field. Again, summer, fall, winter, spring, day, night, nature is all the same at the basic level. So those people have taken that basic structure, either knowingly or unknowingly, and then they've really mastered the basic principles. And then through the process of mastering the basic principles, like the old saying, once you learn all the rules, then you can break them. Then they found their own way, and they found their own unique expression of that. So when you're looking at somebody and you're studying somebody at the top level, you're studying somebody that has simultaneously mastered and draws upon all the essential principles, and yet has transcended them all to create their own way. And that's, you know, for me, kind of what I feel like this is. And that's why I say, like, this is a path. It's not the path, it's a path, okay? But I invite you to just, again, study all the different people so you can see, because the more you experience the diversity and the differences, the easier it is to pinpoint the similarities. And the similarities is what you want to draw out, because those are the basic principles that you can apply and then use to then build and ultimately find your own way. So conceptually, I started, because at first I was like, okay, we're going to do a year cycle. Because again, you know, that's one full season, one full round of the seasons. But then even within that, it still felt too small. And then I was like, well, and I, you know, the number 4 qualitatively is the number of completion. Okay? And just again, like the cycles. And even you can break up the day where it's like you've got your, I won't even get into it. There's so many different ways you can break up the number 4 and just find so many different elements in nature. But I stuck with that concept. And it also so happened that every Olympic, it's a quad, there's an Olympic quad. It's 4 years. And so that's ultimately what I came to, is like, all right, we're going to do this at the macro, the biggest level. We're going to look at 4-year cycles. And then I equated each season with a different element of training, essentially. Keeping the same idea of the seasons, but terming it and relating it and labeling it closer to training. And so winter is equivalent to rest. Spring is equivalent to preparation. Summer is equivalent to building. And fall is related to peak. And that's, if you think about training, that's kind of the 4 basic elements of training. You've got to rest, and you need to prepare your body. It's like, I call it training to get ready to train. So you got to prepare your body to even do the kind of training that's necessary to maximize your performance. And then there's a process of building, where it's like you're actually, it's where kind of the main work, summertime, it's like the main activity, the main work that is actually, it's where most of the gains happen, even though they may not necessarily be fully expressed. And then that goes into the fall, the peak, where now the work is essentially done, and now we're just going to maximize the potential of the work that has been done. We're going to peak. This is like meet prep. And again, you could look at this as like even a 4-week block. And that's why I wanted to do it that way, because I wanted something that I could take at like an accordion. I could take at a big level, and then something I could also break down even to a day level, and ultimately even into a training day. And so I took that big macro level and I said, okay, well, the year 1 is rest, which would be the first year of the quad, meaning like the first year following the previous year. So we're in an Olympic year now. So actually next year, 2025, if you're listening to this, athletes, here's a kind of a spoiler alert, I guess, even though it's not really, anything secret. Next year is rest year, because we're in a peak year right now. So next year is rest, and then the following year will be prep as an overall thing. And then the year after that will be build. Year 3 is build, and year 4, again, this will be 2028, the next Olympic year, that is peak. Okay? And then I took each one of those years and I assigned numbers. I won't get into all this now, but I basically used, if you are familiar with RPE scale, where it's a 1 to 10, I made it 5. Is 10 just seemed like it's too much, too many little nuances. So I made it 5, so it was just simpler. And I used that level because then, or let me finish the thread and then we'll get to that. So I broke each one of those years down. So the rest year has a rest season. It has a prep season. It has a build season. It has a peak season within the rest year. And then same thing for all the other years, your prep year, your build year, your peak year. And then within each one of the seasons, so for instance, like right now we are in a peak year, we are in the build season, we're in the summer season of the peak year. And then within this summer season, which is essentially, it's like a 12 to 14 week block, just depending on how the timeline works out. Within this season, we break the season down into 4 primary phases. So within, again, build season, peak year, there's a prep phase, there's a build phase, there's a peak phase, and there's a rest phase. So each one of those phases may be, any number of weeks. As you can imagine, we got 12 weeks. Normally, especially because we're in a peak year, so usually the rest phase may only be a week or two, but within each one of those phases, so a prep phase and a build season and a peak year, we break down the prep phase, which may be a number of weeks. We break that down into, okay, maybe like, just to keep it simple, let's say you've got 4 weeks within this prep phase. So you're going to have a rest week, you're going to have a prep week, you're going to have a build week, and you're going to have a peak week. And then again, I assign the different numbers, which there's 3 main aspects, at least, for my simplified version of what I've come to. There's 3 main aspects that need to be accounted for in training and really life. So it's the volume, which is like how much you are doing. And then there's intensity, which most people are familiar with those 2 things. There's volume and intensity. And that's actually what I started with. Then I realized there was still kind of a missing element. And the intensity is like how hard, how heavy, or, if you wanted a specific term, like what percentage of your 1 rep max. 100% of your 1 rep max is very, very high intensity. 50% of your 1 rep max would be very, very low intensity. And so as you can imagine, with the volume and intensity, I use that 1 through 5 scale. Okay, 5 is high volume, 1 is low volume, 5 is high intensity, 1 is low intensity. And the last element is density. And density I look at as like the pace, or the amount of work done within a given amount of time. Because you could do, for instance, you could do 5 sets of 5. You could do 5 sets at a 5 intensity, but that is going to have a different stimulus if you're doing sets of 1, because that would be like, damn near you're doing 1 rep max. Or if you're doing sets of 5, which obviously that's going to be a completely different stimulus. Or if you're doing sets of 20, they can all be at a 5 intensity. They can all be as hard as you can possibly be, and you could do 5 sets. You could do a lot of volume. But depending on how many reps you're doing, and that's kind of where the density comes in, or depending on, you can look at the time time constraint. So you might be doing something for a certain amount of time, and obviously the longer the time, like if you did 20 reps, it's going to take longer than if you just did 1 rep. Or your rest periods. And, there's a few different ways to break up the density, and again, I'll kind of break this more down in the course video, the specifics of it, but just so you get an idea of kind of where we're heading with this. So even like within the week, you can break that down. So you got like 7 days in the week. So you can decide like, okay, this is going to be the prep part of the week. This is going to be the build part of the week. This is going to be the peak part of the week. And this is going to be the rest part of the week. And right now it's, just how we've been doing it with our athletes, with our programming. Monday is a prep day. And then Tuesday, Wednesday is kind of the build part. And then Thursday through Friday is the big, or Thursday through Saturday is the peak. And, this may change with the different years, but we're in a peak year. So it's like, okay, the peak is the biggest part here that we're focusing on. And also you can, this is why we did all the KPIs and stuff, because you can figure out what you're testing. And this is where it can be different depending on what you're doing. Obviously, with being an athlete, and especially if you're an Olympic level, if you're an Olympic weightlifting athlete, and you're testing your total, that's your test, that's your KPI. So the peak part of the week is when you want to test. That's your test day. And the same thing, like, again, you can break it all the way out. It's like in the Olympic years, the peak year, that's when you want to be at the top performance, even within the week. On the peak day when you're going to test, especially if you're testing weekly, see how this all comes together now. You can have that be the end of the peak, okay? So again, you can just see how this all works out. And I'll give you one more thing. This is kind of programming specific, but it's still related here. Is I broke down how then, okay, how do you decide, I call it the specificity prioritization. And this has a little less to do with the rhythms and cycles, although it's all integrated. And this is a little bit more to do with the specifics of training. Like, okay, what do I need to focus on? Because obviously doing 5 sets of 1 at a 5 intensity on a deadlift or a clean and jerk is going to have a different stimulus, is going to have a different impact, especially depending on what you're testing, relative to a bicep curl, for instance, as you can imagine. And again, if the test is my Olympic lifting total and I'm maxing out my bicep curls, you can see there's not a lot of a correlation there. Yeah, maybe you could argue like this and that, but either way, like there's not a lot of correlation there. Versus if I'm testing my snatch and clean and jerk and I am training specifically my snatch and clean and jerk at a 5 intensity, at basically doing a 1 rep max, that is highly specific training because I am training exactly what I'm going to be testing. So that would be like level 1, and I'll just run through this quickly. So like level 1 would be the test. So it's like you're essentially you're just testing, because if you did nothing else, and this is the other way, I learned this from Alex Hormozi, is reverse thinking. So it's like if I did nothing else and I still wanted to get better, what would I do? And if I'm testing that thing, well, I'm just gonna want to do the test. Because if you're testing the thing, but you're not even testing the thing, then you're not getting any better at the test because you're not fucking doing it. So that's the test, okay? And then level 2 would be weakness, which is, okay, what are the limiting factors of the test? And again, like I have a whole system that I'm currently developing, but I have a whole system to identify, okay, what are actually the weaknesses? How do you determine those? And then how do you plug them in and all that stuff? And then the third level would be, which again, if you're using the reverse thinking, is like, okay, what's the second most important thing that if I just did 2 things that would help me? So I'm going to actually do the test. That was number 1. And then I'm going to focus on the weaknesses that are the limiting factors of getting better at the test. And then level 3 would be strength. So what are the things that I'm already strong at and have a direct impact on the test? So for instance, if we're relating to training, which again, you can relate this to, it's very dependent on what you're testing, but you can relate it to any number of things. Like if I'm testing my weekly revenue, that's my test, then it's like, okay, what's the weakness of that? And then you can even break it down into, okay, well, I've got, the different aspects of business. So I've got my marketing, I've got my sales, I've got my, administration, I've got my kind of the team development, like all those different things. And you can identify, well, okay, what are the weaknesses here? What are the limiting factors here? And then you can also identify the strengths. So maybe sales is already a strength, but you know that if you get better at sales, that it's still going to have a positive impact on the test. So it's like, yeah, we're going to focus on the sales. Like we still want to get stronger at the shit we're already strong at. And just like in lifting, if you're already really strong at the front squat, but you notice that there's a correlation to where if I continue to get stronger at the front squat, it makes my clean go up, which then makes my clean and jerk go up, then yes, let's keep getting stronger in the front squat. Because that's essentially, it's like, even if I got, like my technique didn't change, but there's a very direct correlation between how much I can front squat, how much I can clean. And again, it's going to be different for everybody, but that's a strength of mine. Then I can just keep front squatting. And I can just keep getting stronger, even if my technique didn't get better. Now, you probably hit a cap on that, but you can see the principle. Level 4 is specific. So basically, it's like, I'm just going to do more, maybe in a different capacity, maybe a different rep scheme or whatever, but I'm just going to do more of the shit that I'm going to be testing. So, again, if you're writing a program, you can literally do like a day you focus on weakness, a day you focus on the test, a day you focus on strength. And then if you want to, if you're doing like a 3-day or 4-day or 5-day template, you can obviously have more days to play with. And then if I had let me backtrack that. I mixed that up. Number 4 is accessory, okay? So accessory is essentially what are the more isolated things that allow me to continue to do the things that help me get better at the test. And so, go back to the bicep curls. If I know that, maybe I've got some like elbow tendonitis or some shit, and doing bicep curls helps keep my elbows feeling good so that I can do the jerks, so that I can do the cleans that I know are going to help make the test better, then that would be an accessory. I need to do the bicep curls. The accessories may not necessarily have a direct impact on the test, but they help keep you healthy, or they help kind of maintain the overall structure so that you can keep doing the things that do have a more direct and specific impact on the things that you're testing. And then level 5 would be the specific work, which is, again, just more of, I'm just going to do more of the specific shit, just maybe in a slightly different capacity. And then level 6, the last level, would be technique, which is like, okay, we're going to like isolate tiny little components. And, I think a lot of people would think technique would be more towards the top of the list, but remember, you get better at specifically the thing that you do. So if you're testing snatch and clean and jerk, you doing snatch and clean and jerk is technique work. And then the technique would be like, okay, maybe I'm having trouble transition around my knees. Like, yes, when you're doing your snatch and clean and jerk, specifically, you can focus on that. But maybe now, like, okay, let's do more specific drills. Let's do this. And that's why I think a lot of people get hung up is, they notice flaws in their technique, and automatically you want to go to like all these technique drills. Which again, don't get me wrong, like it's totally, valid and necessary and helpful. But again, nothing is going to get you better at the thing that you're trying to do than just doing the thing that you're trying to do, especially if you have that intention. Because especially with Olympic lifting, there's a big difference between I'm just going to do this shit just to say that I did this shit, and then you don't have any kind of emphasis on your technique or trying to get better in what you're doing. And so you just keep doing the same shit over and over again and expecting different results, i.e. insanity. And doing things with that intention of, because again, you maybe on your specific day or even on your test day, maybe you're in a prep phase, and this is the beauty of all the cycles and the phases. You're in a prep phase and a prep year. And so even on a test day within that parameter, you're going to just focus on, you're going to have more of a technique intention. This is where intent really comes into play, even with the whole number system. Like, yeah, you can assign a specific percentage of what a 5 would mean, which in our system would be 90 to 100% plus. But really underlying that is just the intention. Like me doing a test with a 3 intensity level intention is going to look different than me doing a test with a 5 intensity level on intention. And sometimes that means I might be doing the same weight. It just depends on where I'm at in the cycle, how things feel, and again, what the intention is. Or if I'm on a technique day and I'm doing a snatch and a clean and jerk, but the intention is technique, I'm going to be way more mindful. There's going to be a different approach. Okay, so you see how intention is very important here. All right. So I wanted to give you that. I wanted to, give you something very tangible to go along with that. But again, in the free course, I'll kind of write this and like break this all down, and we'll get more to the point. So yeah, that's what I got. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. This was I don't know how this was for you, but this was good for me. And again, you take this is art. Take it however the fuck you want. But at some level, I do kind of hope that you feel the intention in the heart. Because even though I can draw upon my ego and really express myself in these ways and kind of use the ego as a tool to show up as this person, to kind of assume this character that I'm choosing to assume in this this moment in time, which again could be completely different tomorrow. That's the beauty. You don't have to be the fucking same person every day, bro. You don't have to be the same person every day. You don't have to be the same person every day. Just be you. Just be you. Just be you. And align yourself to nature. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. I love you. Heart. Heart, 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 heart. Trust, flow, surrender. Peace.